pulled out some straight sage.
No, I really did.
That's some weed.
I don't think
It
people
look like
understood
weed right now.
the power of
Hey,
us.
smoke weed every day.
I don't know, seriously, I don't think people understood like what it really entailed for us to pay so much attention to our families, our children in particular, our communities, this society, all of that. And we did it. We did it here today. And it's just not a meeting today. We've been meeting for months. We've been helping each other with our careers, our reproductive health, our abusive histories. We've triumphed, we've gotten promotions, we're raising new families, and we're conquering some of our greatest fears together. And we're doing from all across the nation, we want other Black women to understand that there is room, they can create brave spaces, and that we love them. So I ground you all today because I've seen you all, talk to you all in the middle of the night. You've always been there for me, and we're there for each other. And I love y'all so much, and let's get this thing popping.
Okay.
I ain't gonna cry after my makeup. Come on.
Oh no!
I was like, you made my eyes water. Now we got to. What do you?
That was powerful, man. It's kind of hard to come back.
And the sage ended right then and there. How powerful was that? Look at God.
All right. Y'all ready to go ahead and start?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, my name is Russell Rabb, and I am here talking to Marnese, Stacy, Nicole, Stephanie, and Ladidra, and they are collectively known as the Angry Black Women. The podcast, the show, the movement that is coming and happening. If you don't know about it, please log on. They're on all social media platforms, iTunes, and Spotify. So the very first thing that I want to get off is this. Why are you angry? Because that title, the title is a little something. When you read that and you go, well, please give me an answer for that. Let's start at the very top. Let's start with Marnese. What is that title about?
Thank you. And nice to see you again, Russell. The title Angry encompasses so much. And when I came up with the idea of the Angry Black Women, and we all kind of collectively came up with the title, the concept, I was like, I'm angry about work. I'm angry about white supremacy culture. I'm angry about some of my behavior. I'm angry at my kids. I'm angry at generational trauma. I'm angry at everything, right? And so I wanted to convene a space where women had a chance to talk about it, because Black women, we get this label that we're angry, we're mad, we're bitter. And I mean, we have a reason to be, right? We've been through a lot. We hold a lot, and we take on a lot. And so we internalize it, but we also put on these different masks when we go out to make sure that we're just happy, but internally we're struggling, we're angry. And why not have something that's like holding our truth and we owning it, right? Because it's such a negative connotation that we get, but we have valid reasons why. So thank you so much for that question.
Well, I like that. And that really sets the tone. So I want to go and I'm going to ask each one of you individually what you bring to this show. So we're going to start down here at the bottom with Ladidra. What is it that you bring to the show, Angry Black Women?
You know what? It's hard for me to talk about myself. I don't like talking about myself. So I'm going to try to think about this very quickly. I just like, I think it's because I've just got to a point, I'm older because I'm the oldest. And it's just like, I've got to a point, I don't care. Like, I don't care. So it's like, I just pretty much say whatever I want to say and I don't care. Like, I mean, not at work or anything like that, but I try to be very honest about things. And I don't always practice decorum, but not like really, really bad. But yeah, I say whatever's on my mind. So I don't care. Like, I just think that I think that we become so politically correct that we're afraid to say things, and I'm not politically correct. So I'm just going to say whatever the hell I want to say. So that's what I have to bring.
Okay, let's move over. You said it. You said what you wanted to say right then. Stacey, for you, what are you bringing to Angry Black Women?
I'm
I mean-
bringing my true, authentic, unapologetic self. For so long, I've tried to fit this mold of perfection and making sure that everybody else was comfortable. And I think I just broke. It's especially working in the field that I work in. I work in the social justice, electoral space. Like Marnese said, we have to wear so many different faces to appease other people. And it got to a point where it's kind of like, I'm sick of that shit. Like, I want to be able to be my authentic self and actually lead by example, because a lot of skin folk ain't kin folk, and they seem to create these spaces or say that they create these spaces for us to actually be our authentic selves, and we're not allowed to be. And just like the connotation that angry is a negative word, it's a valid emotion. I have the right to feel my emotions. I have the autonomy over myself, my body, my thoughts, and I want to be able to do that freely. And I think that's what I bring to the table is all of that.
Okay, said very well, Nicole.
What was the question again? That was good.
And Nicole, looking so glorious. And let me just say this, that you ladies look amazing right now. Each one of you look beautiful. You're like a piece of artwork, like Picasso's. I'm like 5 Picasso's I'm looking at. But let me repeat the question so that you hear it. What are you specifically bringing to the Angry Black Women podcast? What are you bringing to the show?
I like to think of myself as, of course, a protector. I've spent many years advocating for women's rights, LGBT rights, the most marginalized people. I'll get up and get on the steps and grab a bullhorn. I'll, march around in the cold, whatever it takes. But a lot of people trap us as Black women in being the protector, almost dehumanizing us, where some spaces I like being Black girl magic. And I like being able to put my cape on. But a lot of times throughout, people haven't looked at me as a whole human being. And that's why my work is rooted in protection of body autonomy, like Stacey said, and reproductive rights, and body autonomy. Those key essences to remind people and to remind Black women that we can do it all. But that doesn't mean we have to do it all. And we're not above wanting to ask for help or needing it. That does not make us weak. That is our strength. And so I want to have this be where I can bring what I've learned from all of my missteps, all of my F boys and F girls and all of the bad relationships, but the healthy ones and the beautiful ones. And just twerking in the mirror, being unapologetic and just celebrating who you are and bring yourself to every space and not let anybody try to dim your light, because that's the problem. So for me, I want to create a safe space for not only myself to continue to heal, because it's never be over. I mean, look at 2020 and what we've all been experiencing. Mm-hmm. It's 2021 and we thought we wake up and da-da. But what about like Marnese said with the systematic racism? Ladidra is a goal, right? Let's just stop. Ladidra is a goal. She is. Yes. And that is who I would really, and I'm just, these last few months, just being in her presence, she's helped me so much. So if I just bring who I am, however I look, I'm cool, I'm covered. So right. What I bring is my authentic self and also the fights of the others who can't have a privilege to have a podcast.
Okay, I'm with that. Stephanie, let me repeat the question. What are you bringing to the Angry Black Women podcast?
Man, it's so hard to be the last one. I mean, ditto to what everyone said. I would say for myself, I kind of have a weird positionality. I'm from Kansas. Most people would be like, what? There's Black people there? Yeah, we can go on a whole nother history of that. But I'm from Kansas City, Kansas. And my mom is a Black woman. I'm biracial. All my siblings are Black men. I'm the lightest person in my family. So for me, what I feel like I bring to the show is the positionality of multiracial people who were raised Black. I identify as Black. I'm a Black woman. The world sees me as Black. Mm-hmm. But to some Black women, I have to pull out my Black card, define my lived experience. So I feel like that's a conversation we often don't talk about. And I look forward to leaning into that, and especially electoral organizing. From battleground states, I've always been that one token staff person that they'll send to either the hood or the country, because they said I was dual, I could do both. So I also bring that weird perspective where I would knock in country doors and in the hood on the same damn day. So I look forward to leaning into that and how that messaging is different.
Okay. Well, that is good. So you weren't actually the last person, because Marnese is the last. So you second to last. So Marnese, what are you specifically bringing to this beautiful collection of ladies, the Angry Black Women podcast? What are you bringing? What's your flavor?
Definitely intersectionality and my knack to connect people. Like, we all come from different backgrounds. And so I think that's my skill set, which I know is my skill set, to bring different people from different backgrounds together to talk about these issues. Whether you're from the hood, you're the country, you're in an affluent space, we all Black women, and we go through things different ways, but I'm here to break down those walls of us not talking to each other. So, and I too want to get to a space where Ladidra is, where I'm just showing up in my authentic self. Like, I teeter-totter because I have to navigate all different types of spaces, like, of what I say and what I do. So I'm at the point of like, look, if I'm gonna say shit today, I'm saying it, okay? Because I'm feeling without, oh my gosh, I said shit in front of a whole bunch of church people. Oh my God, Marnese, you can't do that. So that's what I'm bringing, is also learning how to navigate these different systems. I promise I do it on a daily basis. So thank you so much, Russ, for that question.
So what I'm hearing from a lot of you is I'm tired of this space. I'm unapologetic. I'm just, it sounds like there's a lot of built up tension and things that have occurred and happened in all of your lives. And there's like a common theme going on. So because we just came off of 2020, what would you feel, or something that, other than the pandemic, obviously that has really impacted your lives, that the Angry Black Woman can feed from, going into 2021?
Who going first?
Nicole.
All right, Nicole, there you go.
Better be getting paid by the hour, some clinical session hours, education hours for this. So for me, I would just say, not trusting or listening to my intuition. What all of this, so somebody who specializes in trauma, I know that throughout, like, our life courses, our life cycles, we will exhibit what we're exhibiting here in 2020, 2021. That is grief, it is death, it is mental health issues, separations, job loss. This is life. I think what the issue is that it happened so suddenly. It was such a shape and such a shift with COVID and with the racial epidemic, global health pandemic, all of these things, poverty, job loss, all of these things in 1 year. What I just spoke of, I've heard has to happen throughout your life to make you whole, or to make you find out your purpose. That's why our elders are so strong. And so when we look at 2020, 2021, that was 10 times for our ancestors, right? So that means we have the map within inside of us to figure it out. But the problem is we didn't get over one triumph, go through that tragedy, trauma, over and over and over again. And so we barely are coming up for air. And that is why the mental health in this country is very, very up and down, just like trauma, because we're going through collectively. But as Black people, this is our state of being. This is where we're at. So for me, I know the tools that I need to move forward But I have to trust my gut. I have to trust my intuition. I have to know that within me is everything I need. And so I kept going to other nonprofits and other quote unquote activists and advocates to help me, quote unquote, find myself out of this when only God knows. So when I say my intuition, I'm mad that I kept thinking that people could save me. I gotta save myself. And no, it wasn't on the point of, yeah, can you please save me? It was, I need you to help me get my coin. I need you to help me find a space or a voice, a higher plateau. I don't need none of that. So I gotta trust my intuition.
Okay. You might want to piggyback off of that.
I do. Ooh, tag me in, tag me in.
Go ahead, Stacey, go for it. Get in there.
So very much, the lessons that I've learned, and I'm transitioning from 2020, is that if you're waiting on somebody to liberate you, you'll be waiting forever. We have the power and the potential to manifest. We have been manifesting since our existence on this earth as Black people, as Black women. And like just realizing all of the seeds that I had planted for years finally coming to fruition in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of mental health crises, in the middle of grief, in the middle of anger, which society tells me I can't feel because it's not politically correct. But I can feel all of that and still get shit done, because that's what I've been accustomed to doing with bare minimum and still doing it successfully. So I think the biggest takeaway is really a lot of what Nicole said, following your intuition and really understanding that you have the power to manifest the life that you want to live. I know that social media and other people often say that the topic of manifestation is a Ponzi scheme. It's not a real thing. What you think and what you believe is often sent from God, the universe, whoever you believe. And that intuition, all of that is intersectional and they play into each other. It's like a circle, an infinity loop. And I believe once we recognize that, no one said this shit was gonna be easy, but the fact that you believe and you're creating pathways for yourself, I believe we're going to get where we need to be in our own time. And that's just as individuals and collectively as people.
Now, and thank you for that answer. Now, I hear that, and I know we focused a lot on the pandemic in 2020, but essentially, the reason why I feel that a lot of Black people, men and women, is not that big of a deal. We essentially, since slavery, we've been in the pandemic. So it's not that much of a stretch, if you will. I mean, not saying that it's easy nowadays at all. I think what happened in 2020 was something that allowed other races of people to experience what we have been going through for a period of time. But as it connects and as it goes through the Black community, and for you, the beacon that you're trying to show, you're going to try to put this message out to those people. And I believe our elders and those before us and what they taught us, but what are you passing down to that younger generation? Because we're in a generation too. And so it can be something that can be broken, but what are you passing down and moving forward to those people that have gone through this pandemic or just living through that? So Stephanie, I'm going to hear what you have to say about that.
I feel like that's such a hard question. I mean, for me, I would say the 2020 pandemic, one was like one of them I told you so moments. Okay. Because I've always been a paranoid person. When Trump won, I was in LA. I moved to Kansas, took my mom and my grandma and moved them to Colorado. I did that within the time that all this occurred. So for me, the pandemic was like, I've been telling everybody that it was about to go down. I've been telling you that white supremacy culture is real. I've been telling y'all that it intersects with everything that we do. And everybody was like, Stephanie, you're just angry. Like, you just can't talk about white supremacy all the time. But in 2020, it was like 3 punches to the face on stuff that I told you years ago the punch was coming. I was like, you about to get punched. It's going to be coming your way. Oh, Stephanie, you're overreacting. So for me, in going off what you were saying, I also feel like it's resiliency. Like, as coming from African descendants of slavery, I was taught how to read context clues, okay? My grandma was like, you see someone walking this way, behaving this way, speaking this way, that lets you know that person may be a threat, right? And I feel like we all were kind of taught those things. But I feel like a lot of people for the first time felt what oppression was like, felt what restriction was like, felt what rules were like, felt what it was like to witness other people break the rules and you feeling powerless about it. And for me, I would say, leaning into what I enjoyed the most about 2020, I enjoyed the white tears, because we can't have equality until the folks who are embarrassed or afraid about their family's history break down a little. That's how we grow together. Everybody know when you're disciplining a kid, it's not until the tears come out that you know that you actually broke through, right? So I feel like it's a lot of that ways with our elders who descended from slavery, but they were the masters, right? And I feel like a lot of them had some real life confrontations in 2020. And they got a little bit of a taste what resiliency feels like after oppression. Like, everyone thinks Black people are resilient because we were like, yeah, I'm gonna be resilient today. No, that's the outcome of oppression, is being resilient, because we survived. We are the survivors, okay? So for me, it was like bittersweet. It's like one of those moments when your sibling get in trouble for something you always got in trouble for, and you're like, ha, 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 finally, right? They've been caught. So I know, I guess that was like both questions, but that's kind of how I feel about 2020.
You answered it. Definitely. And I believe, and what I was really trying to really get at is, until you walk a mile in my shoes type of a thing. Like, you don't really know. We how long we've been free, 1865 or what have you not, and we've been saying this and screaming into the high heavens. And, well, why are you so angry? Why? I don't understand. Because, when I go to this restaurant, it says I can't eat here. It tells me I'm being forced and given rules that I have to abide by. Whereas now in 2020, you get told, well, you can't go to that restaurant. Well, why not? Because you can't. That's why now. Oh, do you have your mask on? Rewind to say this is colors only. You can't go in this restaurant. Hey boy, you better cross that street. These are things we've been dealing with for the past 150 years. But when someone else doesn't understand that, and you try to get that out, and you see, man, you know what? I kind of understand, whether they want to admit it or not. And I don't think some people don't want to admit that we've gone through these things, but when you live through it, and you said it so well, and I do commend you on that. I'm gonna see what Ladidra, what queen, because I want to feel like I need to call you queen because you look so queenish down there.
I'm weak.
Tell me, what is your viewpoint on this?
I'm gonna kind of piggyback. I'm gonna talk about the 2020 election.
Okay.
Because I think it's important to talk about it. And before, I'm going to say this because I want anybody coming for my neck. I did vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. However, I was completely not impressed with this election. I was very disengaged from this election. I didn't care about this election. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to say this, and I'm sure it's going to cause some backlash, but, I did not like Donald Trump because I thought he was an idiot. But what I didn't like is that people thought that because Donald Trump was in office, that people started becoming racist all of a sudden. And it's like people were surprised, like, oh my God, these people are so racist. And it's like, what the hell have you been looking at for the past 30, 40, 50 years? People have always been this racist. You just chose to close your eyes to it. And so now you see the racism that has been existing since 1619, and probably well before that, when the first Black person set foot in this country. And it's like, oh my God. But it's like we were so enchanted by other things. It's like we get so distracted, I call it the shiny ball syndrome. It's like, oh, look, well, oh, they're being arrested. Oh, put out the shiny ball. And it's like, what happened? And I mean, I really think that Trump being in office for the first time, for me, and I'm 45, I'll be 46, is the first time that I feel like Black people really, really started we really started helping each other out. Like, we really tried to pull together our resources and, being more entrepreneurial, all these different things. But it's like now, but then it was like, okay, we got to get Trump out. Okay, we're going to get Trump out. So who are we going to get in there? I'm a Bernie Sanders fan. I voted for Bernie Sanders. When he lost, I was mad. I begrudgingly voted for Hillary Clinton. Like, it was like, I guess, girl, like they said I'm with her. I was like, girl, I guess I'm with you. That was it. Like I wasn't impressed. I'm not. And I'm not impressed with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I don't care who knows it. I'm not. But I voted for him because it was either that or vote for Trump. And I'm one of the only few people that I know that will honestly say I voted for them because I'm tired of Trump because he's an idiot. And I just want somebody that can speak well. I'm just being honest. I don't expect much out of this administration. I expect more of the same. If you ask most average people, they can't even tell you 5 things that either one of them did as an individual. I'm going to talk about the 1994 crime bill. Everybody keeps blaming Biden for it, but what people don't understand is that crime was at an all-time high in 1994. And a lot of the Congressional Black Caucus members overwhelmingly voted to support that bill. It wasn't just Joe Biden. It wasn't like people don't understand how a bill becomes a law, how it works. This one man did not pass this bill by himself. Mm-hmm. There's many, many people that had a lot to do with it. And there were people in big cities that were upset about crime and they were tired and they were going to the federal government like, please help us. But see, people forget about that. They forget amnesia. So they want to blame this one dude for this crime bill. But there was a lot of people behind that crime bill. It's like when you get a credit card statement and you get a credit card. How often do you read the whole thing? You don't. You just, okay, this is my interest, but you don't read the whole thing. And that's what we do a lot of times. We don't read things. We don't try to really figure out what's going on. And again, like I said, if you ask the average person, name 5 things, you can't even, a lot of people don't even know that Kamala Harris was a senator from California. Like, they don't even know. And then the thing is, like, everybody, like, there was this overwhelming support, and I understand why. Like, I'm not taking away from any of her accomplishments. I'm really not. Like, it's great to have a first. It's great to have, the first Black woman, the first South Asian person in office, and I'm not taking that away from her. But it's like these same people that were supporting her didn't like her last year because of some of the policies and things that she voted for. So it's like, well, y'all just, I don't understand, and so I'm really trying to figure out what do people expect? And I really don't think anybody's expecting anything. It's just that it's not Trump.
Right. So with that being said, so with what is going on with her, and I hear what you're saying and all of that. And I think one of the things that is missing a lot of times is education. And when it comes to, most people don't understand how the government works. They don't know what it works. And I'm not talking about what you learn in school, the legislative and executive. I'm talking about actually knowing how the system works. And when you don't know how it works, put it to you like this. If there was a job being an astronaut and I walk down there to Houston or Florida and say, you know what, I think I want to, pilot this rocket ship. And they asked me, do you have any experience? I said, no, never did before in my life. You know what? Yeah, let's give it a whirl. They would tell me, if I even got on the base, to get this so-and-so up out of here. If you have someone that has no experience that Donald Trump did not, then you have to look a little deeper into that. And you say, well, then who's actually running the show? Because if you can have somebody that's not really qualified to do this job, doing that job, then that job doesn't seem like it's all that important. So then you go back into the regime. So with what you're saying, now I'm gonna pop up here to Marnese real quick. And let me ask you, do you feel that this new regime coming in will be different specifically for women, for Black women? Now there's a Black woman in office. She's there. Do you feel things will change for the Black women?
Okay, so to be quite honest, nothing is going to ever change for Black people or Black women until we dismantle this system. Okay, we just can't keep recycling the same old system and expect things to get better. Okay, yes, I voted for Kamala and what's his name, Biden, because of course we're all trying to Trump. I mean, honest, it's just, we're just tired of looking at, people just tired of him, but I don't expect anything like Ladidra, anything better. I support the symbolism of a Black South Asian woman being in there because presentation and all that is good for our people to see. However, as Stephanie said, skinfolk ain't kinfolk. And it's just really a wait and see game. for me, but honestly, if things stay the same, I'm not surprised at all.
So how do you feel that
we have to make the change? Honestly, we have to get involved locally and disrupt whatever system we want it to look like, and that's just organizing. We're all organizers, okay? So I don't put my life into two people's hands just because they turn out the black vote or the other person is a person of color, right? I don't put my life into their hands because I want to dictate what I want to do. I have to create what I want to do, and it's honestly not on either side of the Republican or Democratic spectrum. So with that being said, I have to take action for what I want. So no, I honestly don't care about them.
okay? So okay, well that can't get much more real than that. But I mean, so prior to Kamala Harris being in office, was there was no representation at all for any woman of color in that position in the history of this country. You have someone there now, and you don't feel. And this is, I asked Stacey, do you think that this will be any different in any of it? Will be just the same as it always been? Do you feel that it'll be the same as it's been, even though you have somebody on the playing field now, whereas 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 100 years ago, you didn't?
Yes, I think it's going to be the same. We're not monolithic. I don't have shit in common with Kamala besides the fact that we Black. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. Like, let's talk about cultural competency. So the inauguration. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know who makes the decisions, but like, just look at the layout of how the inauguration was, who they chose to sing, perform outside of Amanda Gorman, who was magnificent. But outside of that, like the lack of cultural competency within the induction of new leadership in the White House. Like, I wasn't excited. I had to stay off of social media because I was drowned out by like the fake happiness. Like, oh my God, everything's gonna be different. It's not. I still got DTE bills. My car insurance still high as shit. They basically still telling me like, I gotta work for white people to make tangible, transformative change in my own communities, but can't get no support from the Black people that supposed to be the ones helping change the dynamics and dismantle oppressive systems. Like, all these things still happen for me every day of my life when I wake up. So what's happening with Kamala and Biden, like, it doesn't directly impact me. I'll believe it when we see some real tangible change happen. And like Marnese said, until we're able to dismantle systems within our own, because local government is just as important. We got people that are Black making decisions against other Black bodies right now that's really messed up. And like, I can't even focus on DC right now. I got to focus on what's happening right here in my own community. So like, no, I don't think anything's going to change.
So, and I hear you on that. And I know that what Stephanie had said, what she had brought up, is that you had been screaming this and you had been saying it, and then something happened. Was there a shift? Because as you're living in California, and as Kamala Harris was a senator in California, did you feel her impact? I don't know how long you lived in California, but did you feel that impact? But, as you were saying, hey, these things, it's coming. Like, how are you being treated while you were saying these things, as opposed to right now, Stephanie?
Oh, that's such a good question. So when I was in California for about 3 years, and from an organizer perspective, I can answer stuff about Kamala in a two-prong approach. Okay. So when you run for office, once you get in office, right when it comes around to re-election, there's certain things that you do. There's certain bills that you support. There's certain people that you prosecute. You make examples, right? But it's like those flashpoints. You only do it strategically to make sure you get reelected. So for me, I would say I work for a Black women's organization in LA. We did lobbying work. We were not excited about Kamala. Okay, and this organization been based in LA for 20 years. Now, when I say excited, I'm coming from an organizer perspective. Okay. And that's what I mean, excitement. See, folks who don't necessarily do this work, they're like, yes, it's exciting to see someone of color in this position, right? But for organizers, excitement for us is it's exciting to see someone agree to do transformative change, right? So like our level of excitement is different. So for me and for the organization we were at, the things we were trying to do to protect Black women and girls in South Central Los Angeles, where she was like in that cultural competencies, where she viewed priorities and things like that, we have to remember a lot of these elected officials have backgrounds in law. Law is one of the first things used to oppress people of color. So even Black people who become attorneys, you can be the most wokest Black attorney ever, we're still learning an oppressive system that teaches us that our people are criminals anyway. So anyways, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. All I'm saying is she accepted that. The whole time she was in California, did we see Black people getting released out of jail? Did we see a large amount of incarceration that's not occurring? No, we saw a rise. So for me, I didn't see that transformative change that I expected to see with a woman of color sitting in that space in Cali. So when I saw her running for office for VP, I'm like, like, president, why does it matter? Because it doesn't. Because you couldn't even do it in Cali. Like, you couldn't do it in Cali. Why run for president and then get selected for VP just because everyone's excited of your color? But they're not excited about the transformative change that we need you to do for people of color.
Right. Well,
I'm sorry. Ooh.
Oh, please go ahead.
Just one thing. But see, so there's a thing to that. So to be honest with you, Stacey Abrams would have been a better choice. But if you look at Stacey Abrams and look at the difference between Kamala Harris, what is the obvious difference?
Kamala's more marketable.
And Kamala's married to a white man.
What?
Kamala's married to a white man.
She's a fair-skinned,
She's fair-skinned with straight hair. And again, before anybody try to come for me, yes, we all come in different shades and everything else, but you have to put someone, when somebody was talking about Stacey Abrams, and there's been a lot of people that have made a lot of remarks about her size, her hair, the gap in her teeth, her skin color, everything. And it's not just white people that are doing it, because there's a lot of colorism going on. But Kamala looks safer. She's more presentable. She don't look as a threat. And it's like, to this day, even in 2021, our skin complexion is seen as a threat. So the darker you are, the more threatening you are. The lighter you are, the safer you are. So she looks safe. I'm not taking away from her accomplishments, but look at the difference between what Stacey Abrams did. Stacey Abrams and her team were able to turn states that have been Republican for years to turn them blue. And she did that. And you have to give her roses for that. And it's like, if you look at the difference, it's like you look at the resume, again, not saying one is better than the other, but I feel that Stacey Abrams was very deserving of it. But then people were like, well, we need her out on the front, the front lines. We need her out on the front lines. She doesn't need to be VP. It's like, who are you to dictate what she needs to be? Maybe that's where she wanted to be and she wasn't asked. You know what I'm saying? Like, why does she need to be on the street? Maybe she's tired of helping out. Maybe she wants a damn break.
But why is it that the darker woman has to be in the field? Because from an organizer perspective, I hate the fact that the term field organizing is still a thing. It's okay for Stacey Abrams to bust her ass in the field, but Kamala can go to the house.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's so messed up to me that we still work within systems trying to dismantle oppressive systems and still have to work within the oppression with oppressors. Some of them look like us and some of them don't. And that's really messed up.
But do we think it's the fact that she's not married? Because I feel like we haven't had a Black woman in a high executive office who was unmarried, like in history. So I also feel like that's another component too, where like I've had people tell me, like, you have to get married if you want to run for office. Don't you try to do it and be single, okay? Because you will be too scary for white moderates. They don't want to vote for a Black single woman. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. But I'm just saying, I feel like that's another component, as well as complexion. I also feel like if maybe she was married and that's a whole nother, it's like, what do your husband look like? That's a whole nother component. It's because like, if you married a Malcolm X Black man and you also are a darker woman, I feel like politics won't necessarily accept you. They would view you very scary depending on where you are. Like if you in Kansas trying to run, they're gonna be scared. Now, if your husband may have had a different positionality, then they may be more accepting. So I don't know. I just feel like they made her a token.
Well, I mean, yeah, I got you on that, but just playing devil's advocate. So then, what if you're saying that it doesn't really matter who's there? Wouldn't matter if it was Stacey Abrams. It wouldn't matter if it was Oprah Winfrey or Whoopi Goldberg. It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, so if you're putting whoever it is and the system is still what it is, and you feel that nothing's going to change because the system is what it is, by putting someone there, I mean, clearly it matters to somebody because there hasn't been a minority or a Black person in that role ever. So man or woman, the fact that it was able to happen within your lifetime, within having Barack Obama, and that's pretty monumental. Regardless of however you feel about it, these are people that achieved something and got to a point that could perhaps open some doors and what have you not. But on the level that you're on, and through this podcast, what is your contribution to inform people or get them moving? Or, like, let me pull Marnese into this. What do you think is the contribution of your podcast? If these government officials that are fair skinned, straight hair, nice teeth, or whatever, Beyonce-esque looking women they get to the top because they look good. All right. So then does the woman have to be, ugly with a hump on her back? Then we're gonna get behind her now. I mean, that to me seems like if you've achieved the goal, regardless of how you look, if you're attractive, you're attractive. That is what it is. Tell me, through this podcast, through Angry Black Women, how will you be able to help bring awareness to what you're saying right now?
Well, of course, with us creating content about lived experiences, it doesn't matter what it's about, because we're going through all topics. Okay. I think for us, it's for women to actually really tap in to see themselves in all the topics. And we're organizers, like we said. So we automatically are coming to organizing them to do something, to call out the culture that the system makes us, or we have no choice but to perpetuate the harm that we're doing to each other through the white supremacy culture. But I think for the Angry Black Woman, through our creative show, we're going to be definitely talking and organizing, and then also unpacking all of this stuff, because you can't do it in silos, like I mentioned before. But then also, I feel that this is a place where if you're ugly, you're cute, you're from the hood, you gonna get something out of it, right? And I think it's a place where people can tap in and figure out how can we organize as a collective together to move something forward. So, of course, my organizers can check in, but that's just my thoughts of where we're going to be going.
Okay, I got you. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and Nicole, I'm gonna have this directed to you. And tell me the difference between an angry Black woman and a bitter Black woman.
That's
Because sometimes you may be bitter and you may put it in the category of, well, I'm angry because this, that, the third, but no, but really you just bitter. That's really what that is, because some dude left you, or whatever the consequences, or whatever your situation is. Please explain to me the difference between an angry Black woman and a bitter Black woman.
So that's a really good question. Obviously, we're the Angry Black Woman show. I would say, well, first, our shade to Queen Cicely Tyson. She transitioned into another plane, and she made such a wonderful contribute to this country, to the society. And I remember I would play over and over Diary of a Mad Black Woman. We're gonna unpack Tyler Perry at another time now. Y'all gotta stay tuned for that. Yet I found myself, no matter what space, what situation, I felt angry. Even when I would go to class, I have the battle against other students with racism, misogyny, all of these things. It didn't matter if it was my high school, predominantly Black. college predominantly white, my grade school predominantly white, my workplace predominantly white. You get what I'm going? You know, I was the same person. Like, I'm consistently the same person. How I treat and how I respond depends on my environment. And so being bitter is being stuck, thinking about in the past, not trying, being spiteful, angry is what motivates me to use my voice. Because in those systems when I was younger, I became quiet. I came drawn in. I'm already an introvert. So I saw myself really trying to wonder, what can I do differently? And so the difference between angry and bitter is not being stuck. Anger motivates me. For instance, this week, I trained Ann Arbor law enforcement on how to treat human trafficking survivors, how to respond, what and what not to do. They just passed new policies that we'll get to later on that affect all women, in particular women and children, and the most vulnerable in human trafficking. I know how I feel about law enforcement overall, the courts overall, the whole system. Yet I have a focus. That's what makes me go forward. It's not what the system has done to me, or what the system has not done to the thousands of people that I had to help in the criminal justice system, or Breonna Taylor or George Floyd. That's what makes me angry. But I picked up those feelings and those thoughts. And last Thursday, was it Wednesday or Thursday, I spoke in front of the House of Representatives. Being bitter is to say, they're not going to do anything. Or being bitter is to say, I don't know what I'm doing here. We ain't never gone, No, I decided to fight. So to me, that's what I think being angry is. Still using that pain and everything that's real, not hiding, but actually like fighting for it and going for it.
Yeah.
And I hope I may change.
Well, so then if that's the definition, and you say, well, if Kamala Harris is in office, Joe Biden in office, that don't matter. Does that sound like bitter, or does that sound like anger? Because based on that definition, sounds more leaning towards the bitter side of what you defined it as. Let me pull Ladidra in here and ask her.
Do I think it's bitter? Okay. So just saying one or two people aren't going to do anything out of hundreds of people, I don't think that that's necessarily bitter. It's just that, you know, the thing with the president can only, well, they can make executive orders, obviously, but you know, it really takes the House and the Senate to get things through. So I'm more focused on the House and the Senate than I am the actual president and vice president, because that's where the change comes through. That's what I'm focused on. So they're a part of all of this system, because you know you have three branches of the government. You have the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. So just because I'm saying two people out of those three branches, or I'm kind of like, that doesn't mean that I don't have faith, or I don't, faith in the whole system itself. So no, I don't think that's being bitter.
Stacey, bitter or angry?
Great question. I stopped romanticizing trying to change the world through a system that was intentionally set up to do exactly what it's doing. And I'm here to impact lives. So I think that using a lot of what Nicole said, using my anger about things that are not within my control makes me focus and gravitate to things within my control. And those things are impacting, investing, and educating, and supporting and uplifting souls, lives. I do not expect for any systems, oppressive or not, for me to necessarily change that as an individual. I don't think that that's what my purpose is. I don't think that's what my mission is. So again, I think it's a big difference between anger and bitter. Bitter with me being nasty, me being malicious, me being deceitful, me being stuck, stagnant, not really using my gifts and my purpose to impact souls. So I think that there is a huge difference between the two. Hope that answered your question.
No, it answers my question. So does one lead to something else? Do you start off at being angry at a situation, or and that morphs into being bitter? Well, I didn't get that promotion, so I was angry. Now I'm bitter because who they gave it to, and it's because I'm black XYZ. I think those two, do they run in the same, do they run parallel with one another? Are they completely two different things? And keeping that separate, because honestly, with a podcast by this name, there are people that don't know the difference between the two, you
And my
know?
thing is, I don't believe it's not up to us to determine what bitter or angry means to the next person. The only thing we can do is share our lived experiences and hope that helps them unpack some of the things that they feel. Because again, talking about politics, you might have your moments of anger and bitterness. And maybe talking about a relationship or loss of a loved one, you might have your feelings of anger and bitterness. I think that it changes depending on where you are in your life. I think it's up to you as an individual to do the work to investigate and figure out which one do you fall in. But again, bitterness, I really think, is staying in that place, being in that stuck place. So yes, bitterness can transform beautifully into anger, and that anger can beautifully transform into real tangible change. But I think a lot of people get stuck on throwing the word bitter around to dehumanize and to attack people, especially Black women, and feel because we haven't gotten to a point that they think we should be at, that it's okay to use that word to define us.
I agree.
I agree.
100%, Stacey. And I just want to lift up validation is what we need to talk about. See, anger is validated. There are reasons that make you angry. You stub your toe, you're angry. Your kids lie about doing their homework and they fail a class, you're angry, right? Those are valid reasons to be upset. But the thing about bitterness is unvalidated anger, okay? So like for oppressed people, getting laid off on some BS, okay? That may make me feel a little bitter because I know I didn't do anything for any of these reasons for me to be treated in this way, right? And so I feel like it's important to lift up that validation. And that's really goes to the second part of what Stacey said, how people always throw out bitter as a response to Black women being angry, okay? And that's them trying to invalidate our feelings, invalidate our lived experience, invalidate. And so I just want to center ourselves at the biggest difference between these two words is validation. Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of Black women that we are bitter. Okay, I'm a bitter organizer. I've worked in 8 battleground states for white people who've hired me to knock doors in the hood in the country. Yes, I'm hella bitter, y'all. Okay, and
I hear you.
Because they never validated it. Okay, it was no validation. Okay, it was like, yeah, I want you to make sure 60,000 Black people vote. Me, one person? How? Like, so for me, it's like that not being validated. So when we think about love and relationships and men, especially toxic men, they love to use bitter as a reason to invalidate Black women's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, as a man myself, I think sometimes, when, again, if you don't know the difference, and you made an excellent point, and I thank you for that, you don't know the difference between the two, and sometimes how you receive something, that's how you take something. And whatever your experiences happen to be, and perception can be reality to you. If my audio was off and you just see tears coming down my face, automatically would think, man, something tragic must have happened to that brother right there. But didn't know, man, I just hit the lottery for $1 billion. I'm crying tears of joy. You see what I'm saying? You can perceive something incorrectly. And I think sometimes men, we're not necessarily the smartest, and
What?
Say that louder for the people in the back.
What?
Wait, what he said?
That's a whole nother ball of wax right there. But sometimes we're not as open to feelings and expressing, because we don't do it amongst men. We don't really talk a whole lot about our feelings and all that. So we're novice when it comes to expressing things. So you may get something the wrong way. So it's easy to just tag you in you're just bitter, just put you in that lump, in that category, even though what you're expressing, because I'm not really listening to what you're saying, because you're yelling, you're this, oh man, she just bitter, man, look at her, she mad because I left or whatever. It's easy to dismiss you that way, but validation is something that I feel is a very good thing, and I'm gonna take that nugget, with me and pass that along, because that's very, very powerful. Now, in closing here, I want to go around and I'm going to ask each one of you, who is someone that inspires you? And it could be dead or alive, somebody that you say, this individual inspires me, and give me very, very briefly of why that person does. Okay, so let's go with Stacy. Who inspires you?
First and foremost, these beautiful women that I have the pleasure of doing this podcast with. And if you watch this, then you know why, so I don't have to answer that question. But Octavia Butler is who I'm going to uplift. Being in a lot of spaces, the angry Black women, one of my escapes, one of my ways for self-care is sci-fi. And for a long time, I've never been included, like sci-fi has never been inclusive for Black women or Black girls. So like, for example, I love the Matrix trilogy. What most people don't know is that it was written by a Black woman, Sophia Stewart, or the screenplay was written by a Black woman. So to see that it is okay for me to dream, to imagine, to be nerdy, to love anime, to love mythical creatures and things of that nature, and still be Black and authentically Black. I want to uplift Octavia Butler because she does something for me that the world can never take away. I can be my childlike self because of her standing up and saying that it is okay for Black women to be advocates for science fiction.
Okay, Nicole, who inspires you?
So of course, my lovely co-host sisters, like they mean so much to me, seriously. And it's hard for me to let people in. It's like you talk about like a guard or a gate. It's like a brick wall. It's a castle. It's a lot. It's hard. So I want to uplift Ruth Ellis and Ladidra, and I've talked about Ruth Ellis. Ruth Ellis will go down in history as a definite pioneer, as an organizer, as somebody who works, somebody who identifies within the LGBT community. I can't say enough of what she does here and has done here in the state of Michigan and Detroit. And so a lot of times, especially with COVID and everything we've seen, a lot of our youth are going through homelessness and all those battles. And she, just by herself, she didn't need a whole bunch of people. She didn't need even no grants back then. It was the 1900s. She decided to go forward with starting to have a center or shelter in her own home for LGBT youth, for people. And so it was just her. And it was just a dream. Like, it was just something that I really aspire to have in the future. And so I uplift her because she didn't have all of the red tape that we see. She just had faith. And so I encourage everybody to just have faith and to just keep going. And I uplift her. And to this day, I mean, so many of my friends and family, they have received services, and Ladidra has worked there as well, because it's one Black woman, angry, bitter, whatever you wanted to call her, which I never heard of. She liked to have fun, dance, and all of that, have parties. So, but yeah, shouts out, I say to Ruth Ellis.
All right, Ladidra.
Yes, I have two, but I'll just quickly. So first one is Grace Jones. I love Grace Jones. And the reason why I love Grace Jones is because Grace Jones does not subscribe to standard beauty. Grace Jones has always been very unique how she looks. Like, she's always worn like the box cuts, or she's worn her hair closely cut. She's always wore things that were very edgy. And everybody was into like the long flowing hair and all that stuff. Grace was in Studio 54 with her buzz cut and her leather, pants with her butt hanging out or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, Grace Jones is who she was, and she didn't care if you liked it or not. Like, she was just very in your face. And like, I still love, like, she was in Conan the Destroyer. And then I love seeing her as Mayday in like the James Bond movie. Like, she was just so badass. And I just love that about her, because she never tried to look like anybody else. And now you see other people that are trying to emulate what she's been doing for 40, 50 years. She's been in the game for a long time, and so I love her. And the other person that I really am quite fond of is Queen Afua. She wrote a book called The Sacred Woman, and it was recommended to me by somebody because, you know, at the beginning of the year I was having a really hard time transitioning. You know, I had been divorced for about a year, and I just had like a lot of things going on, anxiety and stuff like that. So reading that book kind of helped me learn how to deal with like trauma and how to bring peace and how to like meditate and just take care of myself from a holistic standpoint. And Queen of Food has been doing this for a long time, and a lot of people don't really know about her and what she does. But if you're, you know, a woman and you're going through some things, it's kind of a hard book to read. I didn't read it from front to back. I kind of read it in sections. But if you read her book and you kind of listen to her, like on her YouTube videos, or like when she does IG Live, she does it every Sunday, I think it is. She really talks about some great things about, you know, Black women and us healing ourselves and how we hold a lot of our traumas in our wombs and how we have to release that trauma. And she's just very holistic, very sweet woman, and I've learned a lot from her. And you know, I continue to study the things that she talks about, and I try to tell people about her, you know, women about her all the time. I really do.
Okay. All right, Stephanie.
I'm just gonna go with my grandma, Clara Lee. She had my mom at a very young age. A year later, she decided to be a
Not to
jet
cut you off, but what's her name? Let's give
Oh,
her.
sorry, Clara Lee.
There you go. Please continue.
Clara Lee. She was born and raised in Arkansas. We were sharecroppers. She had 5 sisters. All the middle name is Lee. And yeah, Mamie Lee, it's a whole thing. But a year after having my mom, she decided she wanted to go into modeling. And so she's in a Jet magazine for 1957, right after having a baby. And she loved learning. She studied theology. She had a background in nursing. I'm trying not to cry. As many of us, we've lost people we love in the pandemic. I lost my grandma. She was 85. I have 300 paintings in my office that she painted from 84 to 85. And she wanted to go to a school to study theology on the top of a mountain here in Colorado. She inspires me because she was born in a time when we couldn't vote. She was born in a time when we couldn't own property. My grandma and my grandpa owned a barbershop. They owned land, they owned a masseuse parlor. They lived in an area where they burned a cross in front of our land. But all my grandma wanted to do was to liberate our family. She was the oldest. And for me, that inspires me, because that's what it's about. We're supposed to liberate our families. We're supposed to make them better than they were. But it just feels different when we descend from people who pick cotton. Like my grandma lived on that land. So for me, I would just say, like, I'm inspired because she was here. I was able to talk to her. We talked about the Angry Black Woman show, and she was in there dealing with nurses taking care of her. And she's like, heck yes, I'm angry. And it's valid, because how they care for me, how they talk to me, how they treat me. She said, it's not okay. And my grandma used to be a nurse. So for her, she was just like, I know y'all are wrong. Like, I know y'all are wrong and you're disrespectful. So like, she inspires me, because to be 85 and debating nurses down, talking about you supposed to be doing this every 2 hours. I know I'm monitoring you. I just ask God to allow me to live as strong as she did.
Oh man, that's powerful. That is powerful. Wow. You know, man, I'm gonna close this off with Marnese. Tell me, who inspires you?
Stephanie.
Sorry, Marnese.
And I'm not the one who likes to cry in front of people, but I'll do it. I was thinking a moment about my mom. And initially I wasn't gonna say her. I was gonna go to my go-to person, Asada Shakur, because that's just my girl. But then when Stephanie started talking, I started thinking about, like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this for like my mom because she was a single mom when she had me. And my mom, essentially, she was an orphan. And she could have been in the system. The things that have happened to my mother over the years when she was growing up, I don't know how she is here today to be so jolly, so forgiving of other people. And she didn't lean into bitterness. She has been angry, but she always have, tried to be that person to make sure that everybody gets along and just be happy and just do right by other people. And so for me, my mom inspires me to do this work because she always tells me, if you're not going to do something right, don't do it at all. And so when I thought about this whole idea, I strategically thought about these four women who inspire me as well, because I knew that we all had a voice. We all been through some mess, and that I knew we can just do some powerful things together. But I was just thinking about my mom. Oh, thank you. Because she is so freaking resilient, and she is definitely revolutionary. She's not really afraid of pretty much anything. And so I'm doing a lot of this because she instilled a lot of those values in me to be strong. She knows how to navigate the systems to the T, which partly had made her angry, but she really has taught me well to do that and always be check in and be introspect, like check myself all the time. So this show is really inspiring me to just make sure that I bring other women along to do the same thing and help us be accountable to each other. So I was just thinking about my mom at that moment. She inspired me a lot to do a lot of this work. Especially when you're growing up in like Mississippi and people don't think you're going to survive or make it out. She made it. And she raised 3 kids and got married. And I just heard all the negative shit they used to say about her. And I'm looking like, well, fuck you all. Because she doing good and we're doing better than your kids. And honestly, I have to say that because it makes me angry because Black people, we do it to ourselves.
That shit, Marnese.
We do it to ourselves. And I just think about the different dynamics that we're going to be talking about, that I really appreciate my mom for just being who she is. So she inspires me a lot for this because honestly, I'm tired of people. And right now, I really want Black people to grow and just get out this stuck space. So yes, I'm angry, but I'm happy that I have my sisters to help me move things forward. And so that's it.
Well, that is very powerful. Very powerful.
Tears are good. I love tears.
No. Tears are individual badges of honor that are being displayed upon those. If you have an award, you show it with pride. You don't hide it and throw it in a box somewhere and kick it in the corner. You show that. So those tears, especially during a moment, a lot of times when people get really, really mad, what's really weird that happens a lot of times is they start crying. If you were passionate about something, you know what happens? You start crying. It's not just associated with just sorrow, which does happen. And I don't feel a sense of sorrow here. I feel a sense, because Stephanie kicked it off that way, a sense of pride of, this woman impacted my life and she meant so much in the things that you two know about your mother and your grandmother and all the things that you don't know that she had to go through. And, I think about the Black race and Black people. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie now, but it's called The Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. And this guy was in prison for 20 years, and he had a little spoon. He was digging his way out. And after he went through this, 5-6 feet of concrete, then he had to bust through this metal pipe. Then he had to climb in the pipe. The pipe was all the debris from all the toilet. Had to crawl through all that nasty mess and excrement, all of that for they said think about like 5 football fields. Then he got through that and he still wasn't free. This is what we go through. Every challenge that we go through. And that you ladies are here and you're saying this right now and you're speaking so eloquently right now of these are things that make us sick. I can't take it no more. But there's also another side to that. And these are things, these are women that have inspired us. And I wanted to close it off and I wanted to end on that because I feel that is something that when you just hear about somebody being angry, then, oh, okay, that's all they're about. But when you have inspiration, like all of you did, all of you have these things. I'm very, very honored to be a part of this particular grouping of ladies because you all are so different, yet there's a kinship between all of us. As you know, I'm not a woman, obviously, but because we're in the same race, there's something that's there. You know what I mean? And there's something that we have a hidden language that we speak, you know. If you walk up to somebody at their job at, I don't know, McDonald's or whatever, and you know, you say, "Hey man, how's it going today?" And they go, "I don't need to say nothing else." No, man, I got you, brother. I got you. But I'm just very, very honored and proud that we're able to get this out and get to talking to you all. The Angry Black Women. This podcast is going to be hot. It's going to be amazing. I'd like to thank everybody here that are part of that amazing show. That is Marnese, Stacy, Nicole, Stephanie, and Ladidra. I've been your host for this moderation here. My name is Russell Rabb. And please follow all these ladies and get into it because I'm telling you, it's going to be some stuff that's going to make you mad. It's going to make you cry. And it's going to make you, I'm about to tune in to see what they're going to say next. So thank you all for tuning in.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Peace.